All right, folks, this is somewhat of an inspiring story here. Shama Sawant, our friend, actually mentioned this episode to us when we interviewed her on Sunday's show. She referenced the Wisconsin town hall where people stood up and shouted down a pro-Israel congressman. And yeah, it is pretty cathartic to watch. Khaleesi tweets out, Wisconsin town hall erupts against Republican Representative Brian Stile due to his support for Israel's genocide of Gaza. He's booed off stage and had to end the event. $130,000 was his price to sell his soul to AIPAC. Americans are finally waking up. Let's take a look.
Free speech. What do you have to say about that, Brian Stein?
I have to say, shut up.
2 million people.
Oh, shut up.
Do you have a heart? Do you have a heart? Show us your heart.
All right, we're a little bit over. I'm told we can take one more. So Nancy Frank from Elkhorn.
Bring us home, Nancy.
I want to have you address the question that was shouted about the starving children in Gaza, but also the whole...
Good for her. So they shut him up, and she's like, actually, no, I want you to answer his question.
Let the woman get her question.
But also the hungry children in Wisconsin due to SNAP and food bank cuts.
To the first question that you asked, which relates to the challenges that we've seen between Hamas and Israel. To me, the easy answer to address this crisis is for Hamas to surrender and release the hostages. That ends the war tomorrow. Israel was unfairly, unjustly attacked. Their civilians were killed and kidnapped by Hamas terrorists. Israel has a right to defend itself.
And it just doesn't work to say they have a right to defend themselves when they're starving children. Like that, this whole blockade of aid thing is really what did it. Because as long as it was just the bombings, Israel could make the excuse, well, it's a densely populated area. What are you going to do? And apparently there are enough idiots in America who will shrug their shoulders. Yeah, what are you going to do? But to deny an entire population, half of which are children, food, that's just too much for people to take. It's too obvious. How absurd do you sound saying they have a right to defend themselves when the question is about starving kids? Like, how insane and craven do you sound saying that? To the point where anybody with two brain cells to rub together can see you for what you are when you say a thing like that. And that's why that did not work. Did not work at all. There's more.
Please let her hear her answer.
I never knew Ukraine.
The gentlewoman has a right to hear the answer.
It's genocide. You believe in genocide? Genocide. Help us out. Do something about it.
We may disagree with this, and that's fine.
No, it's not fine. No, it's actually not fine to disagree about genocide. No, it's actually not fine. It's not fine at all.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming tonight.
So
we're going to close it off here because there's no point in continuing.
I thought you were running over time. I guess you weren't. I guess that was your excuse, and now you say there's no point in continuing.
I just, as it relates to your question, I'm of the view that Israel has the right to defend itself, and the easy and simplest way to end this horrific war is for Hamas to surrender and release their hostages. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. Doesn't mean that everyone fully agreed with me. I know there's a lot of people that agree with me. I thank you down here. As well. And look forward to seeing everybody against everybody have an absolutely wonderful night.
Feed the kids. Horrible.
I'm going to make sure my mic.
Said that the people are revolting.
You said it. They stink on ice.
That's right. That's right. That was pretty rough stuff. And of course, AIPAC tracker with the receipt, 130,000 from AIPAC to Brian Style. Imagine being that low a person that you can go up there and say they have a right to defend themselves, which in this context, he means they have a right to starve kids.
Right.
$100,000. Imagine, I mean, this is what I mean. Like, these people are not normal. Like, would anybody in the chat take $130,000 to defend starving kids to death? Like, there's something wrong with these people. There really is.
Well, it's part of the conundrum of power. People who seek it tend not to be qualified to hold it.
Right. And not qualified to do anything else. That's why politicians are such mediocre people. Like, how are these people representing? How do these people get so far? They're so mediocre. Well, because if you're actually good at something useful, you go and do that, right? like if you're actually good
there are a lot of conservatives who would agree with you on that. That's core to their argument against government.
Yeah, well, and what's the saying? They prove it every time they get the chance, right? When they get elected, right? Like, yeah, people who are just not good at anything else tend to do this. Like, if you're a brilliant person who, if you're a brilliant thinker, you can make money writing books. You don't have to run for office. Chris Hedges doesn't have to run for office because he's smart enough to make a living as a public intellectual. These are the most mediocre people you'll ever meet, one after the other. U.S. represents. Why I would say, don't you like? Isn't there anyone in government you like? Well, no, there's not. No, there's not, because they're all there because they're mediocre people.
Those who can't do podcasts. Those who can't podcast run for office.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yes. So here's an interesting write-up by Wisconsin Public Radio. So there's a couple things that are interesting about this. Number one, what we see is that viral clip about Gaza was not the only thing that people raised hell over. The other interesting thing about this, and this is an indictment of Wisconsin Public Radio, nowhere in this article is protest of the genocide even mentioned. They do not mention the fact that people were outraged about Gaza in this article. Republican U.S. Representative Brian Style was met by a hostile crowd attempting to shout him down Thursday evening during his first town hall gathering since the passage of President Donald Trump's Big Beautiful Bill Act. The Elkhorn High School auditorium was filled with around 200 people, some of whom carried signs with slogans like "Resist," "God is King, no others," "Hands off SSI and Medicare." When he entered the stage, Style was met by a roar of boos mixed with some cheers from smaller groups of his supporters, as we did kind of hear in the video. The town hall was raucous as the audience repeatedly overpowered Styles' microphone. He paused often while urging the crowd to stay civil and allowing him to answer a series of questions out of respect to those who asked them. The questions touched on a wide range of issues, from federal funding for cancer research, Trump's broad-ranging tariffs being enacted without congressional approval, and immigration arrests by masked ICE agents disappearing people. One attendee questioned the morality of deportation raids during Trump's second term. "What I see happening to our immigrant population embarrasses me, horrifies me, and you have not raised your voice to complain about it," she told Style. "I see no leadership. I see following Trump 100% of the time." In response, Style lauded Trump's executive orders and deportations. "What I see as moral hazard was created by former President Biden by allowing the U.S.-Mexico border to remain unsecure," Style said. He was drowned out by a roar of boos that lasted roughly 10 seconds. "I think we need to secure the U.S.-Mexico border," Style continued after the crowd quieted. "You may not. It's fine that we disagree." See, that's a very sleazy way of framing the issue, and this is what we've said over and over again vis-a-vis ICE and the deportation and border security. Most people want a secure border. So if that's all Donald Trump was doing, you wouldn't have this kind of backlash. The reason you're getting this backlash is because, as the protester or as the questioner said, they're uncomfortable with masked agents disappearing people off the streets. That's not border security. That's an authoritarian police state. Those are very different. And so the fact that he answered with, "Well, I guess you don't want a secure border," that's a complete straw manning of the argument, which is why now they're underwater on this issue as well. After the town hall concluded and the audience filed to their vehicles, a homemade "No King" sign was left hanging on the entrance to the Elkhorn High School auditorium. Style represents one of just 2 competitive congressional districts in Washington, though he has won previous races comfortably and currently has a large fundraising advantage in the early stages of this campaign cycle. So, yes, he represents the 1st district of Wisconsin, which is southeastern Wisconsin, which was Paul Ryan's district, oddly enough, although it has been redrawn since then because there was a census in between, so it doesn't look exactly the way it did when Paul Ryan represented it. But, yeah, he won it in 2024 by about 11 points. And, this is the kind of district where we said, we covered, there was a congressional representative from Nebraska who we covered a couple shows back who got shouted down about healthcare and Medicaid cuts. He was up by 20. So is he unseatable? Probably not. This guy is. I mean, if you're only up by 11 points going in and you see that kind of reaction combined with the trends that we're likely to see in the generic ballot looking the way it looks, and the fact that this has kind of been a swing district, the 1st district of Wisconsin, the southeastern part of the state, went for Obama pretty handily twice, and then it's gone narrowly for Trump ever since. These are the kinds of places that swung Trump's way in 2016. This is the story of the disaffected white working class Rust Belters who were former Democrats who switched to Trump. If that town hall is any indication, you have to think that that seat is vulnerable, and that video went far and wide because it is a sign that people are waking up to the brutality and the horror of what's going on. Yes, in Gaza, of course, most importantly, but also, the fact that they're getting shouted down over this immigration stuff is a real sign. And this is another reason, by the way, why they're pulling this shit in D.C., because people are upset. People are quite upset. And I think the only reason why you're not seeing a massive sea change in the Democrats' favor is because people hate the Democrats too, right? And so the polling is moving kind of slower than public sentiment because people are like, oh my God, am I really going to have to vote for these fucking Democrats? They are moving in that direction slower than they would if the Democrats weren't filled with Pete Buttigieg types who we're going to see next.
Well, Karl Rove really brought the Fox News business model to politics. He was the first strategist to really argue you're better off just feeding red meat to a fanatical base than to try to broaden that base.
Right.
And now we're really a generation on from that. And this is the result. They're not trying to talk to anybody.
No.
They're just trying to get the people who are with them, no matter what, ride or die Trumpers,
right?
And just feed them the kind of red meat that appeals to them. We're beating up homeless people, immigrants, people who aren't like you, and hey, it's all going to pay off in the end. Now, that's the tricky part of this, is why you're seeing these kinds of numbers and these kinds of demonstrations. People can see their grocery bill. People aren't stupid. They understand that these tariffs are going to wind up costing them money. You have very, very, very indoctrinated people who, honestly, I don't want to stereotype. It's not everybody. A lot of these people you see online, and it really is online more than it is in real life pumping this up, they don't have to worry about tariffs. They live in their mom's basement. Like, a lot of these people literally don't have these kinds of economic concerns because they're not fully fledged functioning adults in society. It's a lot of broken men go, blah, 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 blah. You go out into the real world, it looks like this. These are real people.
Yes. Having responsibilities does change the way you look at these kinds of things.
Sure. Of course. Well, that's why they always say, well, you'll change your mind when you pay taxes. And you could change your mind and go in one direction like, yeah, nah, man, that Mad Max looks like a manual to me. I want to see that. Let's just get rid of all the taxes, everyone for themselves. You could go in why does someone in my class pay this much and somebody in that class pays so little? But yeah, you're definitely going to think about things differently.
And why don't I get anything for the taxes either?
Right. And why don't I get more?
Why don't I get health care for this? Yeah.
Sure. the first time you get a paycheck, it does change the way you look at things. I literally remember that the first time I got a paycheck and seeing how much they took out in taxes, because it wasn't literally my first paycheck, but my first paycheck as someone who had to pay rent.
Right.
And then you start thinking about that. That's what I mean. Like, even if you're working and living in your parents' house, it's not the same. It's not the same as when you got to pay rent. I lived on chocolate bars to assuage my hunger pains for a while. You go through that, yeah, man, you can go in one of two directions. Like, a lot of people who come up from under like that, like an Oprah, they actually become very right wing. And, you know, to us, Oprah is right wing. Yeah, you just have to believe in it. You know, it's this weird liberal class version of right wing. It's like their version of prosperity gospel. Kind of a right wing thinking. You know, because deep down the way they look at it is, I did it. Why can't you?
Right.
A lot of times that, like, they hate their own class or the class they came from more than anybody very often. But, you know, the other way you can go when you see that is, why is the system like this?
Of course. Of course.
Please clap.